Grüß, willkommen in einem anderen aufregendes video. Welcome to yet another exciting video, in this case part 26 of my Star Trek TOS timeline series of videos. In this video, I'll attempt to trace Kirk's 5-year mission, as well as identify the approximate locations of as many planets mentioned in the TOS scripts as possible. Trying to trace the travels of the Enterprise in its 3 years of its 5-year mission is not going to be an easy project. I can try and use as many script references as I can, but a lot of the video is going to require an awful lot of assumptions and, of course, assumptions which could be clearly wrong. If nothing else, I hope it may inspire others to do a better job, as the main benefit of tracing the journeys of the Enterprise is it will allow us to identify the location of many of the planets mentioned. The first issue we have is the map. Most maps, which you can download from the internet, include a host of references from other Star Trek TV series. We've already identified that the latter TV series, such as TNG, only have a superficial resemblance to TOS, and as the series comes out, as new series came out after TNG, they even have less resemblance to TOS. Thus, it would be difficult to use these maps for TOS. I need to create a unique TOS map based purely on the TOS script references. My previous videos provide a rough idea of what the Federation space would look like. I estimate the size is about 800 light years across, and it is a sphere. Because of various wars, this sphere does have some deformities in it, which I may need to consider. The other point is the location of the stars. We know for certain the location of 3 stars, Sol, Alpha Centauri, and Altenac, as all three are actual star references, they're actual stars which are referenced in the series. Many of the other locations which sound like actual stars are far too far away to be viable, but most of the locations bear no resemblance to any real star names. Some locations we can infer with some degree of accuracy, such as the 3 Romulan homeworlds and the Klingon homeworld, never mentioned in the TOS script. That is, the Klingon homeworld is never mentioned by name. We can guess the locations of stars such as Axanar, Organia, Delta Vega, and Donatu 5 with some reasonable confidence. With less confidence, the location of Vulcan and perhaps a handful of other stars, but everything else is pure wild speculation. I personally believe creating a more detailed map based on the scripts of TOS is really a fruitless enterprise. We can guess, we can create a guess which would differ from someone else's guess. Thus, what value does it have? However, by attempting to create a base based on the episodes of Star Trek, we can actually get some value. The first is it can indirectly assist in determining warp speed with a greater degree of accuracy, and it can help us determine if the production order is actually the correct chronological order. However, apart from these 2 points, I feel going through the episodes quickly may only be of minimal interest to people, apart from the fact that it would allow them to relive the episodes that they probably watched in the past. So I'll be as quick as possible. Let's now start our journey. In principle, any outward expansion would result in a sphere. This will not be a perfect sphere, with some bits sticking out and some bits causing an indentation in our ball. While I include any deformities based on references in TOS, on the other hand, in principle, the default shape that I'll be using is basically a sphere with slight deformities where the Romulan border is. This 3-dimensional shape causes issues with my map, as in some cases the Enterprise moves along one axis and another a different axis. As a result, I'll need to show the map using a galactic north-south, and in some cases using a view along the galactic edge. This shows a galactic north to south view, assuming this gives us a clockwise rotation of the galaxy. Our system is shown by the white arrow. This shows a galactic edge view. The sun's location is shown by the white arrow. At this point, the sun resides, at the point the sun resides in the galaxy, it's about 1,000 light years thick, which means if Federation space has a radius of 400 light years, it can form a perfect 3-dimensional sphere. The density of stars seem reasonably consistent within this 1,000 light year thickness, but once we exit this 1,000 light year zone, the system density does decrease. Earth has the exit of the galactic plane in the past, and actually it's generally felt that that's not very healthy. The galaxy does not have a uniform density along the galactic plane, with the galactic arms representing a high density of stars and the gaps in between lesser densities. This map comes from Board Game, which shows three densities: high, which is gold; medium, which is grey; and low, which is black. While Sol is close to the edge of the galactic arm, it's fully within the high density areas. The density does go up dramatically in the galactic centre, but that's not something we need to worry about, although possibly the Voyager may need to. This was covered in some earlier videos, but I feel the Romulans and Klingons occupy the lesser dense areas closer to the galactic centre, which on this map is the bottom edge. Both the Klingons and Romulans do have some high density areas, which is why they are advancing towards the Federation. This shows their respective spheres of influence in, let's say, 2264. When we look at the Federation and Romulan space from a galactic side edge, we see both spheres easily fit within 1,000 light years width of the galaxy. I've removed the Klingons as they make it hard to see what's happening because they're in front of both these two spheres. The blue area in the centre means that both Federation and Romulan space occurs in this area. Some bits are Romulan, some bits are Federation, when you look at it from the side. This three-dimensional nature will make it hard to create a map. However, we do have some tricks to make it easier. Most of the major planets occupy the centre 300 light-year width segment. Inhabited planets outside the slice tends to be rarer, perhaps half have come back into the safety of the galactic magnetic field and as a result are almost lifeless because it's unhealthy being outside. So it would take time to repopulate the planet with new life. Other planets are very old and are on the way out of the galactic magnetic field, thus could be extinct, or the life forms have retreated into a non-corporeal state or are prepared to do so. So they're less generally important to us. Only the planet in the centre are vibrant, young and expanding. I have no idea if this assumption is true, but it means most of the action should occur in the almost two-dimensional central slice. I only need to use a side view when we move into the north or south extremes, which unfortunately, because the Enterprise does seem to hang around the edges, does occur quite a bit. Planets which occur in the north part I'll show in blue, and those in the red in red, basically the blue and red shift association. Those in the centre will be basically black. That way I can represent the 3D nature of the galaxy in a comparatively simple manner. For additional simplicity, I'll only show Federation space unless I need to show something in the Romulan Star Empire or the Klingon Empire. For the Klingons, I may alter my view to ensure I get both territories meeting in the centre and sort of overlapping. For clarity, I'll also change the scale so you can see what's actually happening in Kirk's voyage clearer. Let's now move on to Season 1. Quick note, I'll be showing two aspects. This shows the galaxy side-on, or the edge, and is indicated by the side-on view of the galaxy in the top right corner. This side-on view of the galaxy will move around based on the map shown. So if you're unsure if you're looking at a side view or a top-down look for the symbol. In the episode where No Man has gone before, the Enterprise has left Earth and gone to the galactic north to investigate the loss of the SS Valiant. During this episode, it goes to the mining planet Delta Vega. In the episode Corbomite Maneuver, the Enterprise encounters the First Federation. This must be outside Federation space and must be on the way to the Romulan border, as the Enterprise needs to be there for a later episode. In the episode Mud's Woman, the Enterprise goes to another mining planet, this time at Rigel 12. It must be coming from Festerius on its way back to the galactic centre, close to the Romulan border. Close by is a frontier planet with settlers. I expect some type of special colony which lacked women. The Enterprise visits another planet on its way back to the galactic centre in the episode The Enemy Within, called Alpha 177. It's uninhabited and probably uninhabitable and not a very pleasant place to go to. In the episode The Man Trap, the Enterprise visits M113, which is uninhabited, but once hosted a civilization which is long dead. There is a Federation research base on it. Remember, I'm heading towards the Romulan border. In the episode The Naked Time, the Enterprise visits another dead world, this time Psi 2000. We are back in the galactic centre, so now I'll move to a top-down aspect view, or galactic north, in the next image. This shows the galaxy using a top-down view, as indicated by the top-down view of the galaxy in the bottom left corner. I'm going to remove the cross-hatching into Federation for clarity in this point on. In the episode Balance of Terror, the Enterprise goes to the neutral zone to battle out with a Romulan spacecraft. In the episode What Are Little Girls Made Of, the Enterprise begins to move south, which is not kind of shown here because we're in a top-down view, as the Squire of Gothos most likely occurs on the southern border of the Federation, so that's where we're moving. On the way down, we drop by XO3, yet another dead civilization. In the episode Dagger of the Mind, the Enterprise visits a penal colony called Tantalus 5. It continues to move south and to the bottom of the Federation on this view. I must point out there is a lot of guesswork here, and it's possible the Enterprise took a different route, so take this with a pinch of salt. In the episode Mirim, the Enterprise comes across a perfect copy of Earth, the planet I will call Earth 2. It must have been outside Federation space, and I'm showing the galactic edge map again, as this planet could be off the southern edge of the Federation and out of the way. We now flip back to a top-down view. In the conscience of the King, the Enterprise visits two planets, which are both reasonably close to each other. This must be further in the Federation, as both colonies seem reasonably well developed and are not frontier colony worlds. In the Galileo 7, Enterprise is on its way to Marcus 3. This cannot be a frontier planet, so we must be remaining deep in Federation space, but probably on the way to the boundaries. In Court Martial, the Enterprise visits the only starbase it ever visits in the entire 3 seasons of the series. It would be closer to the Romulans, as starbases would represent forward supply and maintenance locations for Starfleet, supporting their defence against the Romulans or anyone else out there. We must once again move back to an edge view, as I suspect the next planet, Talos 4, must reside outside Federation space. In this case, south of the Federation border. Talos 4 is the first planet the Enterprise visits in the cage, as well as the 2 menagerie episodes. Talos 4 must be reasonably close to Starbase 11. On the way back from Talos 4, the Enterprise drops off on an uninhabited planet in the Omicron Delta region, which ends up being a long-abandoned recreational planet. This occurs in the episode Shore Leave. In the Squire of Gothos, the Enterprise is on its way to a far-flung outpost called Colony Beta 6. Perhaps it's monitoring the southern galactic barrier or has some other significant economic value. On its way, it bumps into Gothos, which must be about 460 light-years from Earth, in my revised assumption of the episode. In Arena, the Enterprise visits 2 planets, Cestus 3, which has been attacked, and a Metron planet, which was used to allow the Gorn and Human to fight it out. Somewhere beyond must be the Gorn, which I suspect are in the far south of the galactic plane and reasonably close to the Klingons, but with no common border with it. In the alternative factor, the Enterprise comes across a dead world which once housed a civilization which could travel between different universes, and possibly time as well. We now flip back to a top-down view. In Tomorrow is Yesterday, the Enterprise is flung back to Earth, but past Earth. Perhaps a bit of the time-travelling alternate universe alien technology has rubbed off on the Enterprise. I originally wrote this as a joke, but now that I really think about it, maybe there is a link to why the Enterprise is able to move back into time. In The Return of the Archons, the Enterprise moves back out of the border of the Federation to Beta 3 to search for a long-lost spacecraft. In A Taste of Armageddon, the Enterprise travels to MNR 7, which also contains the planet Vendikar. This planet may soon become a member of the Federation. In Space Seed, the Enterprise goes back towards Earth, probably within 67 light-years, and meet Khan's DY-100. Kirk drops him off at Ceti Alpha, which must be further away from Earth, is my guess, in a comparatively low-density part of the Federation space. In This Side of Paradise, the Enterprise goes to Omicron Cetar 3 to check on a colony. Thus, it did a U-turn. Its U-turn is unusual and is probably caused by Khan's ship, the unplanned drop-off for Khan's ship. The amount of travel done by Enterprise is far too great, but perhaps each episode does not represent 2 weeks, and some episodes represent 1 day and others a month or more. In Errant of Mercy, the Enterprise has to travel to Organia because of an emergency. This is about 250 light-years away, so it would take it a while to do so. Perhaps they went at very high speed, warp 8, because it's an emergency. We move back to an edge view. The Enterprise visits the city on the edge of forever in this episode with the same name. This must be hard to get to and could be on the other side of the southern galactic barrier, making it very dangerous to get to because, quite frankly, the Guardian on this planet represents an existential threat to everyone in the entire galaxy, so it needs to be really hard to find and get to. In Operation Annihilate, the Enterprise travels to Denver, which must be well within the Federation space in order to have the population that it does possess. This is another long journey. We now move on into Season 2. In Cat's Paw, the Enterprise goes to an uninhabited planet which was previously surveyed, so it could well be in Federation space. In Metamorphosis, the Enterprise loses a shuttle in the Gamma Carina system where they meet Zefram Cochrane of Alpha Centauri. This location is outside of United Space territory when Zefram Cochrane was lost, but which may have been his plan, but certainly within standard Federation space in the current year. In Friday's Child, we travel back to the Klingon border, in this case the planet Capella 4. The Enterprise is conducting surveys in the episode Who Mourns for Adonis? This could be outside Federation space or maybe inside just near the edge. I have selected a spot inside. This is where they meet Apollo. In Amok Time, the Enterprise is on its way to an unknown location when it diverts to Vulcan. This is the only time we ever visit Vulcan, which is one more times than we ever visit Earth or even Mars, so it's a great episode with lots of interesting data in it. In the Doomsday Machine, the Enterprise goes to L374 to find the system destroyed and with a super weapon on its way to a close Alien Federation member planet. This zone may be patrolled by the Constellation, so this may be an emergency for the Enterprise to reinforce this starship. Anyway, the Enterprise must be close to Vulcan. In Wolf in the Fold, the Enterprise visits Argelius, most likely on the way back from L375. The planet Rigel 4 is also mentioned, which could be in the previously mentioned Rigel system. These are alien races and may have been part of the old Vulcan Trade Association or network of planets. In the episode Changelings, the Malurians are destroyed by Nomad. I really have no idea where this could be, so I've placed it close to the Enterprise last position, which was a wild guess. There is a lot of guesswork in this. In the Apple, Gamma Trigluarian 6 is encountered. I need to go over to the Romulan border in a later episode, so we'll move up north and towards the Romulans. In Mirror Mirror, we meet the Halcyon Council. This is probably an independent alien planet on the edge of Federation space. I have placed it up north near the Federation border, so I can get to the Romulan border. In the Deadly Year, we swing over to the Romulan border once again, this time to Gamma Hydra 4. We know if we travel to Starbase 10, the Enterprise will go through the neutral zone, so this starbase must be very close to the border, and actually both locations must be very close to the border for a bulge in the border to result in the Enterprise going through the neutral zone. We'll now flip back to a side view once again. In IMUD, the Enterprise meets the Andromeda androids. I have to assume they were outside Federation space in an unusual position, possibly way up towards the North Galactic Barrier. In The Trouble with Tribbles, the Enterprise goes down to the Klingon border. This may not seem like a long journey, but the Enterprise is 300 light years north of this position, so it is yet another long journey. This is a top-down view, incidentally. Close by Sherman's planet, this must be close to Donatu 5. In Bread and Circuses, the Enterprise visits Planet 4, Star System 892, or the Roman world. It must be close by and outside Federation space. In Journey to Babel, we journey to Babel. This must be well within Federation territory. I have no idea where, so I've selected this spot because it's kind of close to the Vulcans, which is probably where the Andorans and Tellarites and all these other races will probably assemble. In A Private Little War, we once again head down to the Klingon border to meet those delightful folks. In The Gamesters of Triskelion, the Enterprise travels to Gamma 2, where the captain is taken. The Enterprise then travels to Triskelion, close by but outside Federation space. The Enterprise travels to Argus 10, where Kirk meets the gas monster. The Enterprise then travels 1,000 years to Tychos. the breeding ground of the gas monster, which is an enormously long journey. In the immunity system, the Enterprise comes across a giant space creature which kills everything it comes in contact with. This must be on the edge of Federation space. The planet it kills, Gamma 7A, is probably an alien Federation member system. In a piece of the action, the Enterprise visits the gangster planet. This must be outside Federation space. I am assuming the Enterprise is travelling back to its original position, facing the Klingons. In By Any Other Name, the Enterprise has to move north outside the galactic barrier where they meet the survivors of the Kelvin Empire on a planet I will call Kelvin. This may not be so obvious, but it is another reasonably long trip because they travel way up north. We now flip back to an edge view, and as you can see, Kelvin is way up north. In Return to Tomorrow, the Enterprise visits the planet of which I suspect are the Cedars. This is also far to the north, but when this planet was part of the powerful galactic civilization, it may have been closer to the centre and had been drifting north for the last 600,000 years. In Patterns of Force, the Enterprise moves to the planet Xeon and Ecos, which resides in the northern part of Federation space. This may be better placed on the edge, but it's possible some part of Federation space is fairly empty and thus these planets could actually exist. I need to travel back down into the centre, which is the reason why I've put them there. In the Ultimate Computer, the Enterprise goes to the uninhabited planet called Alpha Carina 2 to engage in war games, which ends very badly. In the Omega Glory, the Enterprise visits Omega 4 in the outer areas of the Federation. Once again, this may be better off occurring outside of Federation space, but I want to try and stay close to Earth for the last episode of Season 2. Most of these locations are pure guesswork, which is why I never really attempted this before. Nonetheless, it can give me some hints concerning what is viable and what is not, and I suspect the Enterprise may need to be able to travel faster than 1,000 times the speed of light in order to fly around the Federations in this manner. I have no idea what an 8,000 light-year Federation would require in terms of speed. It would be enormous and would make basically Voyager not viable, and it would make it possible to basically swan around the entire galaxy in a fairly short period of time, so that certainly cannot be the case. In Assignment Earth, we are back on Earth. This time it's 1968 Earth. This ends Season 2. Now we enter Season 3 of Kirk's mission to conquer as many women as possible. What a job. After the Enterprise time-travelling jaunt, they then move to the edge of Federation space. As we end up on the Romulan border in the future, let's assume Melcott is here, which is described in the episode Spectre of the Gun. After our gunslinger adventure, the Enterprise moves off to Troyes and Elis. This would be within Federation territory, although not the edge. It would also need to be close to the Klingon border, and it's described in the episode Elan of Troyes. In the Paradise Syndrome, the Enterprise now shoots north to beyond Federation space to visit the Earth-like planet with American Indians on it. In the Enterprise incident, the Enterprise engages in some espionage, successful, with the Romulans. This occurs, obviously, in Romulan space. Probably the only time we actually... this is one of the two times we actually enter Romulan space. In The Children Shall Lead, the Enterprise first goes to Kirks, a research planet, and then back to Starbase 4. I have to assume they are all close to the Romulan border. We now return to a side view. In Spock's brain, the Enterprise travels to Sigma Draconius. As the Enterprise has some record of the planet, but not much, it's probably in Federation space and close to the edge. In Is There in Truth No Beauty, the Enterprise is travelling to Medusa, which I assume is in the north portion of the Federation, close to Sigma Draconis. In The Empath, the Enterprise travels to a system which will go nova. There they visit Minaria. Close by is the planet Manarch 4, which will probably be affected by the nova. This must clearly be outside of Federation space. In the Tholian web, we meet the Tholians. I have no idea where they are, but I'm placing them up north and away from the Romulans. If you actually look at the maps that you can download from the internet, it's actually at the opposite end of the Federation, in a different location. So This may actually be incorrect, and I could probably move it to where the other maps say it is at a later date. This does get in the way also of the Cardassians if I place it here, but I'm assuming that the Tholians in this case are above the Cardassians, so we can get away with it. Again, all guesswork. For the world is hollow, the Enterprise travels close to Daran 5, which is most likely an alien Federation member planet close to the edge of the Federation boundary or border. In the Day of the Dove, the Enterprise travels to a fake Federation colony. I'm assuming that this is actually an uninhabited planet and it's beyond Federation space. In Plato's Stepchildren, the Enterprise comes across the planet Sandara, an alien planet. This would have been outside Federation space as well. In a wink of the eye, we travel to the beautiful planet of Scarlos, which appears to have no inhabitants. In the episode That Which Survives, the Enterprise discovers an unusual artificial world, which I'll call Ghost Planet. This was built by a now extinct race, and as the other three planets, is outside of Federation space. In Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, the Enterprise travels to Uranus, a Federation planet, before moving on to Cherion. Cherion, which is the home planet of the multicoloured folks, is outside of Federation space. In Whom God Destroys, the Enterprise now travels to the penal colony of El Batu, which must be further into Federation space. In The Mark of Gideon, the Enterprise travels to Gideon, a planet suffering from massive overpopulation. In The Lights of Zeta, the Enterprise travels to Memory Alpha, the Federation library planet, which must be well inside Federation territory. In The Cloudminders, the Enterprise once again heads off for the Romulan border, but on the way drops by Dana. In the episode The Way to Eden, the Enterprise travels to Eden. Luckily, no Romulan warships were around, as this is in Romulan Star Empire territory. We once again flip back to a side view. In Requiem for Methuselah, we travel up north, far away from the centre of the Federation, where we find Flint in the Omega system. In The Savage Curtain, we once again exit Federation space to visit Excarbia, the home of the Rock people. In All Our Yesterdays, the Enterprise finds a planet about to be destroyed by a nova. All the people have travelled back into time to escape the nova, another example of some sort of time travel. For our last episode, Turnabout Intruder, we are back into Federation space, visiting another dead civilization on Camelus 2. As I've indicated before, I'm not too keen about my map and I'm uncertain how useful it is. The only two takeaways I have is if the production order is chronological, then the Enterprise has to jump around Federation space an awful lot, which means it needs a much higher speed. At a maximum cruising speed of 1,000 times the speed of light, the Enterprise can cover 1,000 light years in 1 year. While many locations are close, there is at least one 1,000 light year journey and one 400 light year journey, with many 1 to 200 light year jumps. It must be possible for the Enterprise to travel faster than 1,000 times the speed of light for short bursts, and cruising speeds may need to also be higher. One theory is speeds may differ in different parts of the galaxy, which could explain many of these discrepancies, but probably not more because there's simply too many. As a result, I feel some level of logarithmic progress must be occurring, starting at 400 times the speed of light for warp 1 and slowly logarithmically rising to warp 7 and then shooting up. In this chart, the speed of warp 7 is 1,500 times the speed of light, and at warp 8, 1,900 times the speed of light, with warp 9 giving us 2,300 or 2,300 times the speed of light. If we assume high warp beyond 7 can only be maintained for a short period, then we can explain away some of these jumps, but not the 1,000 light year leap across Federation space. I assume we can assume this is in error and is actually a lesser value, or perhaps their space allows you to travel quicker for some reason. Can't solve all the issues, but this does resolve 90% without causing us issues which would result from having far too high speeds. The other takeaway is the production order may not be chronological, and if you reorder the episodes, you could reduce this jumping around significantly. The effort involved in creating this was so significant, I prefer not to work out a possible better order of episodes, and we'll leave it to someone with more passion on the topic to do so. Regardless, there is a lot of very good maps of Federation space, which may not be accurate for TOS, but are probably accurate for TNG in the later series, and I would advise people to primarily focus on those maps. So we come to an end of my part 26 of my Star Trek TOS timeline, in this case covering Kirk's 5-year mission Travelogue. The episode scripts can be found using the URL shown. Once there is a company which offers tours to these locations, I will add those URLs to this video. Alle guten Geding, kommen zu einem Ende.